Hi everyone, welcome to the fourth lecture of GuardDuty series, and from this lecture we will be going to perform certain production based scenarios, the common scenarios that what you can detect from the security perspective, and also with the help of certain services within AWS you can remediate those issues as well. Now I hope from the conceptual part, from the workflow perspective, how you can enable all the three services within AWS, it's clear for you from the previous lectures, because that is very important to understand the concept, the workflow, and then you come back to this particular lecture to see how we can perform certain set of production based scenarios. So for this lecture, the scenario is I have an instance within AWS running my workload. It can be production, it can be staging, or a dev environment, right? Now this instance, the running workload instance, got compromised by hacker machine. So let's say I'm a hacker and I'm able to gain an access control over your workload, right? The instance running your workload. In that case, I'll be able to send all the data out from your system to my system, which is a hacker machine. So here I'm calling hacker machine as a malicious instance and compromise as compromise instance. So once the data gets going from the compromise instance to malicious instance, then obviously there is a big problem into your environment, because let's say you have a subnet range within AWS where you are running 10 or 20 web servers or application servers or database servers. If I am able to get control on one of the server, I can get control on other servers as well. So there are like certain rules that we can play around within the hacker world, that I can gain control over the same network for number of servers that you are running your workload. So obviously once instance or a workload is compromised, you are in a big problem. Okay, how you can protect this? So with the help of GuardDuty, Security Hub, Lambda function, CloudWatch event, SNS topic, we can protect the entire scenario. How? Let's look at that. Now, if you're aware of the conceptual part, GuardDuty is more of an detection system, and it reads out VPC flow logs, CloudTrail for the account, DNS log if you're using Route 53, Kubernetes if you're running Kubernetes workload, right? It scans all those logs, and based on those logs it dumped the data into the finding section of GuardDuty. And I have shown you in my previous lecture when we enabled GuardDuty with the generation of sample finding. So it will show you like is it like a brute force attack, or a port scanning is happening, a communication is outbound to the malicious instance. So all those kind of scenarios will come into the finding section of your GuardDuty. Now, GuardDuty, since it is just detecting the environment, detecting the scan, and detecting the issues, there is a functionality within Security Hub where you can integrate with the different service to remediate that process. So what we are doing in this particular scenario, taking the finding of GuardDuty, sending that basically to Security Hub. So once the data or the finding presents in the Security Hub, because Security Hub is a central hub which collects all the data from different source of security tool within AWS, config, GuardDuty, inspector, and different AWS services as well. Now what we are doing, once the data is there within Security Hub, we are sending an SNS topic, like an email to the user, a security DL, you can say distribution list. Hey, something is fishy into your environment. GuardDuty has detected that. So let's look at what exactly happening into your environment. Is it like a brute force attack, denial of service attack? Obviously it will not stop the denial of service attack, DDoS attack, because it will just drill down the impact, but it cannot stop the flow of that particular attack. That functionality is not there with GuardDuty or Security Hub. But yes, we can integrate different services that where we can also remediate that process, stop that process too. So once we have the email, something is happening into our environment, till this point, till number fourth flow, it is detecting, sending out the data, or not the data, sending out an alert to the user who is responsible for your security standard. So till here, the detection is done. Another functionality we can implement with the help of Lambda function. It's a custom function, a small function that you can write, where if it finds out like the compromised instance is communicating outbound to the malicious instance, then have the Lambda function to stop that compromised instance right away, to isolate the traffic from other servers running into that particular network range. So again, once the server is stopped, obviously the control will not be going to work for the hacker. Now, how that's basically the flow that we need to work or perform within AWS account. Now, how this is detecting that it's a malicious attack? Because we are using a threat list. So we are using S3 bucket, where updating or maintaining the list of IP addresses, list of malicious IP addresses into that list. If any one of the machines or any one of the particular IPs, the threat list IPs gets detected, where compromised instance is sending data or communicating outbound to the malicious IP address, then it will do all the logic behind the scene. It will stop the instance, isolate the traffic from there itself. I mentioned this in our theoretical lecture as well, that few of the companies do maintain the list of threat IP addresses. They used to maintain it, and company get in touch with those third-party agencies to get the list threat list IP addresses, and you maintain it. Every time you have to update, keep updating it, because there are like lot of different ranges or IP addresses from where hacker can come and attack to your environment. So this is one kind of a attack where you can detect and control or remediate the process right away. So I hope this clears a lot in terms of the flow that we need to perform over here. Now let's jump to our management console. So this is my management console. As you can see, one of the major requirement for this workflow to run is that you need to have GuardDuty Security Hub enabled before running this entire setup or before configuring the entire setup. So GuardDuty is enabled for me in my account. Security Hub is also enabled. That you can see the summary, it's 000, nothing is there. And then I am creating an SNS topic. That's a dummy email that I have created. That's an SNS topic. So anything happened to our environment, it will send a mail to us. Hey, something is fishy into your environment. Okay. So we have created another bucket, which is basically collecting, or we will be maintaining the list of malicious IP addresses over here. I haven't done or I haven't uploaded it yet, but we will be doing that soon. Okay, let's go to our workflow one more time. I showed you GuardDuty and Security Hub is enabled. I showed you the SNS topic that I have created for notifying the alerts to the user. Let me go to CloudWatch and Lambda function as well. I'll show you the two instances. I haven't done the renaming of the two instances like compromise or malicious. We will be going to do that as well. Okay, so that's the event bridge I have created. Obviously inspector is running into my account, but as of now it's not doing anything. We have something called GuardDuty finding. I'm just doing port scanning. Okay, that's an event pattern that needs to be checked out. Target is the SNS topic. We are sending that. If the event is matched, send that notification out. That's one GuardDuty rule event bridge that I have created. Second one is for the remediation, which is basically creating a custom action called GD remediate EC2 instance within Security Hub. The target is if everything matched, then target is the Lambda function. Now, if I click on this Lambda function, this is a simple Lambda function that is just stopping the instance, doing nothing apart from stopping the instance. Just wait for a second. Yep. As you can see, we are importing the boto3, then reading out the value with the instance ID with the variable, and stopping that instance is if everything matched out properly with whatever configuration we have done. So that's what the Lambda function is all about. I try to use like simple Lambda function. I'm not a big developer that write a complex code. Okay. So we have two instances. This is running with an elastic IP, so I'm going to consider this instance as malicious instance, okay, and this one as compromised, compromised. Perfect. What I'm going to do, so I talked about threat list, right? So this is, let's say this is the malicious instance, obviously, and I got this IP from the agencies, right? What I'm going to do, I created a threatlist.txt file. Let's update the IP address over here. Go to your S3 bucket, upload that file, not the folder, threat list, upload. Perfect. Close it. Now, how this threat list will get read out by GuardDuty. Now, let's go to GuardDuty, and we have talked about this. Into the list section on the left navigation, there is an option of trusted IP address and threat IP address. Now, from the interview perspective, if somebody asks you, hey, if you have added the same IP address to the trusted list and threat list, how the preference will be going to happen? It always go with the trusted list first, then threat list. So obviously it will not going to do anything for you. Now click on add threat list. Let's give this name as threat list. URL of that particular object. So click on this, copy the URL of S3 object. Where is GuardDuty? That's the one. It's a plain text format. As you can see, we have different formats. You can use CSV as well. And click on I agree, add list. It's still not enabled it, right? Click on active. Now this is done. So that's how the GuardDuty will be going to read the threat list from S3 bucket. Perfect. Let's go to the finding. As of now, nothing is there because we haven't done any sort of communication. Perfect. Let me go to instances, and one thing which I need to perform, go to compromise instance. As of now, this is, let's see the security group. I haven't allowed my IP address, so that's why. It's all internal, so I won't be able to SSH into the system because I don't have any jump box. My IP, save the rule. Perfect. So I'll be able to log in to my compromise instance. So as of now, nothing has been compromised, right? We are going to perform a scenario for that. We'll be going to start port scanning from the servers. Perfect. Let me maximize cd documents key, enter. Yes, I want to connect. So there is a simple script. Let me show you that. It's just doing 10 iteration with the IP address what we had in the threat list. Okay, it's doing an nmap. That's it. Nothing apart from that. YWQ. Perfect. So let me go to the workflow again. We have the instances prepared. We have the threat IP list added. GuardDuty will be going to perform the findings when we start the instance scan, and we will be going to get the SNS notification as well as if anything happened over there, if the instance get the events get matched, and Lambda function is there to stop the instance. Perfect. We have everything set up properly. So let's do this. Let me close this one. GD, enter. So obviously this will be going to take some time because GuardDuty takes nearby like 2 to 5 minutes or 2 to 10 minutes, sometime as well 15 minutes to get the findings out of it, and that sends to Security Hub console. So within Security Hub console you will find the data within the findings section, and from there we can take the action as well. So we need to wait for few more minutes, and I'm going to have this video pause. Once the finding is here, I'll resume the video back. Perfect. So now we have one of an activity which states it's an unauthorized access malicious IP caller dot what is that, custom, I believe. Yep. And this is the instance ID. 9 minutes ago, one count. Okay. So EC2 instance this is communicating with a disallowed IP address on the threat list. Obviously, we have made that particular statement. Hey, within threat list, if you find this IP address, then it's an attack that is happening, because this instance, which is a compromised instance, now it started communicating outbound to the malicious instance. So that's a big no for us. Okay. Now, if you go ahead and check what all details you are getting, so it's a medium severity, US East 1, count 1. Ideally, it should go as a high priority for me. Target, resource role is target and type is instance. You are getting all the instance detail. Okay. Then the IAM instance profile, tagging, all the network interfaces ID, private IP addresses, security group, action type is network connection, connection direction is unknown. It is going outbound because it's trying to communicate, although since the security group inbound is not allowing to data, so that's why my script was failing over here. So it was showing as but blocking our ping probes, so it was not able to ping, but it was able to find out because it's trying to communicate outbound to the threat IP address. Which IP address it's basically connecting to or communicating to, that's a threat IP address, and all the city location from where they are trying to do. Perfect. So that's basically your GuardDuty finding. Now, as per our finding or the workflow, what we have written in the backend or what we have created in the backend is Security Hub. This should get into the Security Hub console. So that's what Security Hub is. Click on finding one more time. Let me go to summary, finding again. So we have a medium severity. Then workflow status is new, active, US Eastern, your account detail, the product type is GuardDuty. It's the recommendation is coming from the GuardDuty. We have instance ID and 9 minutes ago. So that's what you are getting within your Security Hub console. Now, how you can remediate, because I haven't done the entire automation yet, but how you can remediate, you are getting actions over here like either remediate EC2 instance. So if you click on remediate EC2, what it will do, it will go ahead and stop the compromise instance. So let's see that. Click on remediate EC2. This will trigger the Lambda function. As you can see, send the findings to event bridge. And since event bridge is matching the Lambda function, it will go ahead and initiate that stopping of instance logic written in the Lambda function. So let's go to instances, refresh, and here we go. So it's stopping an instance. Now it's totally like isolated from the running environment. Then hacker will not be able to see what exactly is happening into your system because it's already stopped. Another point over here is, and that's what scenario that we covered as part of the documentation. We created compromised, malicious. We were able to communicate outbound. The data was coming into the GuardDuty, then sent to Security Hub. I got the email as well in the backend, and the Lambda function is basically gets triggered manually. As of now, I have done it manual, but you can also send that notification out to Lambda function to trigger and stop the instance. Okay, so that's how the workflow is all about for remediation and detection with the help of GuardDuty for such kind of scan attack. Now you can write Lambda function again, obviously to stop, but you can also write another Lambda function. So for the finding section, basically, let me go to not the Lambda function, more of a event bridge. As of now, this shows as EC2 Portscan. So they're like different set of combination that you can write and send those notification out to your email address. Those are the findings, because if you remember from the previous settings or the previous lecture, we in this lecture we are just sending out a data from GuardDuty, right? Just one type of data. Here you can also send out the IAM user root credential usage. because that's not a best practices to use the root user account for accessing your AWS. I'm using it for the demo purpose, but that's a big no for any kind of production environment. So there is one more scenario which I need to cover up, because as part of the guard duty documentation, the process of scanning happens every 24 hours, which means if you have done the scanning at 2 a.m. Eastern, if it is scheduled from the back end at 2 a.m. Eastern or 2 p.m. IST, whatever the time it is, it scans the environment for the compromise instances, EBS volumes, and if it finds no issues, it's good enough, and it will report nothing to the finding section. Let's say at 3 a.m. Eastern or 3 p.m. IST, we have an issue raised like one of an instance got compromised. Will GuardDuty going to take that finding out and run the entire workflow that what we had discussed? Let's see that. So while doing the talking, I just disabled, like we stopped the instance, right? Lambda function stopped the instance, and I started the instance again. I got the new IP address. Now if I run the nmap, will GuardDuty get the finding over there? Let's see. Let me connect to the instance. As you can see, the previous instance was 174, 129, 108, 156. Now we are connecting to 54, 158, totally a different IP address. Let's connect and we'll give, okay. So one thing I need to update, no, I don't need to update anything over here. GuardDuty, enter. So it again started the communication outbound to the threat IP address, which is listed in the S3 bucket and GuardDuty. So again, we have to wait for another 2 to 5 minutes for that particular finding to come over here. Let me archive this so that we'll be able to see if something is coming fresh in GuardDuty or not. Within Security Hub, we have made that resolve. So I'll wait for another 2 to 5 minutes and resume the video back just to show you if we get the data or not. Now we have two results. So I created another instance with a different set of private IP address and public IP address and try to run that nmap to the threat IP address. I was able to get that list of that instance basically in GuardDuty. So if there are like multiple attacks happening at certain interval of time, I believe we will be able to see all the findings getting dumped into this GuardDuty, and that will go to Security Hub for the remediation. So let me go to the instance section. This is the test2 instance that I have created. As you can see, 54, 174, 139, 82. If I go back over here, scroll down again, instance this 5e communicating to the threat IP address. And if we look at the instance IP address, this is 174, 139, 82. So yes, we are getting the data out within GuardDuty finding. Now, if I go to Security Hub console, findings, go to summary and again finding, we should be able to get that list of new instance over here within certain interval of time. So the workflow is working fine with GuardDuty. We are getting the data. That data is dumped into finding section of Security Hub 2, and within Security Hub, since we have a Lambda function for the remediation, click on that particular function and click remediate. So that's how the workflow of this scenario works, and I hope this clears a lot in terms of how you can like create instances. Obviously, creation of instances is not a big deal. Enabling GuardDuty, enabling Security Hub, we have done that demo as well. I will give the Lambda function. It's a small Lambda function, a simple Lambda function that anybody can write, and you can work on that particular execution as well. So just play it around with this detection and remediation part, And if you're facing any issue, place out a comment in comment section. I'll be there to help you. Have a nice day. Bye bye.